This is Chris Lipe, jamplay.com, lesson number 5. Today we're going to be working on single string scales. Before we do that, we're going to look at a way to figure out all the names of the notes on the guitar. You guys have probably seen charts that show you all the names of the notes. But as we look at the neck, it's pretty easy to figure this out. We've gone over the names of our open strings. From there, we can learn the rest of the names of the notes. Now, getting them memorized just takes a lot of practice and a lot of playing different scales. Hopefully, these single string scales that we're going to work on today will help drive home a good portion of the notes for you. So, open string names, we've got E, A, D, G, B, and E. In the world of music, you have what's called sharps and flats. Sharps and flats I referred to in the last lesson as accidentals. What sharps and flats are, a sharp is if I've got, for example, a G. I'm going to raise that G up a half step. A half step on a guitar is the distance of 1 fret. If I raise that up, if I raise the G up a half step on the guitar, I'm going to get what's called a G sharp. If I lower that G a half step, the distance of 1 fret, I'm going to get a G flat. So raising a note a half step sharps the note, lowering the note a half step flats the note. Okay, so now if I am playing a G sharp and I sharp that note, I'm actually going to run into A. And we'll get into key signatures a little bit more later, and there's some tricky things that happen with key signatures that you get some crazy note names. But for the most part, what I've just said is true. For today's purposes, we're going to be referring to everything on the neck as a sharp. Now, because of the way notes are laid out, and if you look at a piano, this will make sense because you've got your white keys and then you've got your black keys. There are not as many black keys as there are white keys. And that is because in our 12-tone American music scale, we do not have an E sharp. We also do not have a B sharp. And again, there are exceptions to that, but we're not going to deal with that right now. An E sharp is simply going to be F, because E and F are a half step or 1 fret apart. There's also no B sharp because B and C on the guitar are a half step apart. So if we've got an open E and you raise E a half step, that's going to be an F. But if you raise F a half step, that's going to be an F sharp. Okay? The distance between F and G is what's called a whole step. A whole step is defined as 2 frets on the guitar, or 1 note in between. So from F to F sharp is going to be a half step. From F to G is going to be a whole step. This is really important. That understanding whole steps and half steps is really important when we build a major scale, which are the scales that we're going to be learning today. A major scale is made up of a certain chemistry of whole steps and half steps to give it the sound that it has. And if you look in the notes, you can see this, but the makeup is you've got your first note, and then you've got a whole step, a half step, then 3 more whole steps, and then a half step. Okay? Let me illustrate that for you. We're going to start with the single string E major scale. So if I'm playing an E major scale, and we look at that order of whole steps to half steps, we're going to build a major scale off of E, off of our low string here. So my first note is going to be E. So between my first note and my second note, I've got a whole step. So that's going to give us E. Now a distance of 2 frets is going to give us an F sharp. Okay, I've also got another whole step. So you've got 2 whole steps to start us off. That's going to give me a G sharp. Okay, then the distance between my next set of notes is going to be a half step. So I'm going to go from G sharp up to A. So we've got whole step, half step. Okay. Then I've got 3 more whole steps. So that's going to be a distance of 2 frets. So that's going to be from A to B. Okay. Then I've got another whole step from B to C sharp. 1 more whole step from C sharp to D sharp. Then from D sharp to E. So if we play that again, the order is whole step, half step, whole step, half step. That's the combination of whole steps to half steps that make up the major scale. So we've got whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Now if I play that just as a scale, it's going to sound like this. There's your first E major scale. And refer to the supplemental materials a little bit more to get the tablature for that so that you can get it memorized. But you can see how this major scale, all of a sudden, you've learned the placement of a lot of different notes on the guitar. Now again, if you're walking up in half steps on this low E string, and you're using the musical alphabet plus the sharps and flats idea that we were talking about, you've got E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, remember there's no B sharp, C sharp, D, D sharp, and E. Now after the 12th fret on the guitar, the notes start over again. So the same notes that you would play on your 13th fret is going to be the same note name as your 1st fret. And that's true with all strings once you get past the 12th fret. Okay, so we're going to come up with a major scale for each of the strings. Now, so you're going to have an E major scale that you'll have learned, an A major scale, a D major scale, a G major scale, a B major scale, and then another higher E major scale. If you name the notes while you are doing this, while you're playing these scales, and again, refer to the supplemental content, it's all tabbed out for you, and the note names are even written above the standard musical notation for you so that you can begin to equate which notes are where, both on the neck and on the standard musical notation as you're looking at the tablature. But as you're doing this, if you're naming your notes, you're going to really start to get an understanding of the names of the notes as they pertain to your guitar neck. So let's go over that E major scale again. Now the fingering that we're going to use here to get these scales is going to be the same on every string, and the form is going to be the same on every string. This is a way for you to start playing down the neck a little bit, and it's a way for you to start learning your notes. So we're gonna play open, then we're gonna play first finger 2nd fret, then 3rd finger 4th fret, then we're gonna come up here on the 5th fret and play with our 1st finger again, then 2nd finger 7th fret, 4th finger 9th fret, 1st finger 11th fret, and 2nd finger 12th fret. So played a little bit more up to speed, that's going to sound like this. Okay, there's the E major scale. Now down, we're going to do the same fingering. Okay, again. Now, this fingering can feel kind of awkward at first because you're really stretching your hand out, but it's a good exercise, and as long as you've got your hand positioning correct. In one of the last lessons we talked about keeping your thumb, the joint of your thumb here on the hump of the neck. If you're doing that, you should have plenty of hand out here to get these stretches. Also, don't worry about it for right now. You need to rock your hand a little bit in order to make these reaches. So that might look something like this. Again, not as cool as being able to stretch your hand out. That'll come if you're using proper technique.